The earth element is linked to late summer, the time of declining yang. Traditionally, it is seen as a central pivot for the other elements. The exceeding beauty of the earth in her splendor of life yields a new thought with every petal. An earth element is a person who is used to serving others. It is something they do without complaint, and they are at their happiest when they are helping people with one thing or another. This rushing around looking after other people could lead to a feeling of emptiness or being unfulfilled in oneself because all of their energy and time is taken up by other people. This lack of fulfillment may manifest itself in an earth element as an eating disorder, a need to eat in order to give themselves some attention. Although they would be eating, it would not necessarily be for the reasons of nutrition, but more than likely as a need to do something for themselves. This would probably lead to excessive eating and digestion problems with a feeling of being bloated. An earth element may show signs of heaviness or lethargy. Another sign of imbalance in earth element is for them to go to extremes of one form or another. They may become obsessed with cleanliness or with how they look, or they may go completely the opposite way and let their appearance and standards go altogether, not taking any interest in themselves at all. For some, these feelings go back to when they were children and their mother was always making sure that they were constantly clean, neat, and tidy. The earth element nourishes us as our mother, feeding and supporting us, giving us the ability to care for ourselves and others. Of course, if this nurture was lacking in childhood, it can lead to a constant search for this kind of attention. When we understand this, it is not hard to see how the emotion associated with earth is that of sympathy. This need can be excessive, or there can be a complete lack of compassion. We are all made up of the five elements, and although you may not consider your patient's primary CF to be earth, you may recognize a little of this element in their makeup. For example, they may feel that they are always taking on other people's problems or worrying about others and what might happen if they do not help them. There is often a fear of letting others down, and for an earth element, this can feel as if they are carrying a large weight across their shoulders, which stops them from walking upright and grinds them down. It is important for those with an earth CF to realize that they can still care about people, but they need to take time to look after themselves too. The earth element is all about nourishment and nurturing, about taking on board food and digesting and distributing it around the body. This is done by the two officials, the stomach and the spleen. As well as nourishing the body, we must also look after the mind and spirit equally. Stomach. We must always be looking to digest as much knowledge as we can in order to keep the brain as active as possible. By absorbing this information, we are making ourselves feel secure and able to cope with problems. So it is understandable that when an earth element is out of balance, this can also affect the mind. There will of course be the more obvious physical symptoms, but it will affect the mind in similar ways to the body. When the body is not working correctly, the stomach can feel knotted up and not able to receive any more nourishment. It is in the same way that the mind and the spirit can feel overwhelmed and unable to take any more in. It can become confused and discard information in a similar manner to the stomach, rejecting things when it is not right. These are all symptoms which demonstrate that both the physical and mental aspects of an earth element are not in balance. The stomach is referred to as the official of rotting and ripening food and drink. It digests the food that it receives and also controls the creation of waste byproducts. We have observed that when something is out of balance, it can affect the mind as well as the body. Someone with a stomach imbalance may have a very vacant look about them, and they are unable to digest any facts or information that may be provided. This information will have to be condensed and fed to them in small sections so that they are able to take these facts on board. If too much information is thrown at them, they will show signs of confusion and also anxiety. Spleen. The products processed by the stomach, either nutritious or waste, are transported throughout the body by the official of transportation and distribution, the spleen. If there is a breakdown or imbalance in these officials, then the whole cycle of creation and distribution breaks down, thus creating problems throughout the whole body and mind. Both the stomach and spleen are integral to the well-being of all of the other officials throughout the body. In his book, In the Footsteps of the Yellow Emperor, the author refers to ancient Chinese beliefs that the stomach and spleen officials should be strengthened as a basis for all other treatments. If the distribution system is not functioning smoothly, then food and byproducts will not be distributed, and they will rot and cause blockages throughout the system. These officials must be allowed to transport and distribute efficiently in order to maintain an even balance. As with the stomach, a similar distress can manifest itself when the official of the spleen is imbalanced. The spleen is the transporter, and if this function is not working smoothly, worry and stress can set in, which can cause as much of a problem as a physical slowdown or blockage in the body. From our studies of the earth element and its officials, it has become clear that they are integral to the efficient running and maintenance of our mind, body, and spirit. The stomach is the furnace that keeps our engines well stoked and full of power and energy, both for our physical well-being and to keep our mind and spirit alert. The spleen provides the means for transporting this energy around our system to all the areas that require the stimulation. It seems evident that we would not be able to carry on with a healthy and rewarding existence if either of these officials were not working correctly. Therefore, it must be in all of our interests to maintain a balance here before we can even look at other areas of our well-being. A deficiency in the spleen will be indicated by sagging skin and a loss of tone in the face, as this organ relates directly to the flesh. The spleen controls the flesh, and flesh that is particularly flaccid or drawn reflect imbalances in the spleen function. The earth element from an ACULIFT perspective is very interesting. Earth elements can be obsessive about their appearance, so may be unrealistic about their expectations of what might be achieved by a facial treatment. This needs to be taken into consideration when you are discussing the expected results. When we look at the other side of an earth imbalance, the patient may let themselves go and have no interest in how they look or what might be done to improve their skin or their appearance. The problem with this imbalance, of course, is that the patient is very unlikely to seek help through an ACULIFT procedure. The metal element is linked to autumn, the time of rising yin. Metal is about connection, inspirational quality, and purity. Autumn is considered to be the time of winding down, getting together a storehouse ready to see you through the winter. If you do not get the reserves together in autumn, then it will be a very difficult winter to get through. It is also a time of reflection when one looks back and perhaps takes stock of things and issues that have happened in the past. It can be a period when a person may paint or put their thoughts on paper and want to leave a more permanent record to pass on to their children and family. This can sound a little bit somber, but it is not like that at all. Autumn is also the time when nature has a last burst of color and energy as the trees and plants give an exhibition of wonderful hues. The related emotion for this element is grief. Those who experience a metal imbalance may lose their judgment about when to let go and will often suffer from symptoms such as diarrhea or constipation. Constipation can manifest in the mind as an inability to let go and look forward. This person will always be thinking of what has gone before and perhaps what might have been. Like trees in autumn, they need to release their fruit and let it drop to the ground. What they are doing is hanging on, and this fruit is rotting and causing them an imbalance. It is very true that this time of the year is a period for reflection, and we may all find ourselves looking back and contemplating whether the year has lived up to our expectations. It is very hard not to dwell on the past, but this is really wasted energy, unless we can change our perspective of those events in order to move forward. What we need to do is look to the future and be positive in our attitudes, which is sometimes easier said than done. Metal is attributed with discernment and quality and also purity. This can be likened to the rich minerals and ore that are found within the earth, which in turn can be processed to extract precious metals such as gold. These types of qualities in a person are something very special to have. They will come across perhaps as a perfectionist or as someone who wants things done properly and in order. They will likely be outspoken about their beliefs and have very high ethical and moral views. Air is also linked with the element of metal, and obviously this is one of the greatest gifts that we have, as without it there would be nothing. Air is what gives us life and vitality and what feeds our lungs. We must be continually looking for that clean, fresh air that we require to develop and go forward. We do not want to become bogged down with impure and stale air, which can be likened to the old memories and feelings from our past that may stop us progressing. As we have discussed, a metal element is very pure and inspirational, someone who is organized and straightforward. As earth relates to the mother, metal is associated with the father, which speaks of authority and respect. This CF is likely to see things as cut and dried and would not want to see a do not care, do it tomorrow type of attitude. You could sum it up by saying that you know where you stand with a metal element. Therefore, a challenge to someone of this element would be disorganization and irresponsibility. They would find it very difficult to tolerate scruffiness. Of course, as we have seen with each of the elements, an imbalance could result in the other exaggeration, where someone could lose their self-esteem and become completely unkempt. When we focus on the metal element, we need to look at the two officials of the lung, known as the official who receives the pure chi from the heavens and the large intestine, which is recognized as the official of drainage and dregs. These officials are interrelated, as one brings goodness and vitality into the body and the other expels the waste and byproducts from the body. The functions of the officials of the metal element are in many ways the easiest to follow. They share a great many similarities with the physical functions of their equivalent organs in Western physiology. The lung is of the greatest importance to us. It is the first sign of life when we are born, and it is also the last sign when we pass away. It takes the energy from the outside of the body to the inside. It acquires what sustenance it needs from the air it has inhaled, and then expels what it does not need when it exhales. The lung official then circulates this vital energy throughout the body, mind, and spirit. It breathes fresh air and life into our whole being, and it also gets rid of the stale and tainted air that resides within us. However, we do seem to take even the act of breathing for granted. We have to eat, drink, and breathe to survive, but we would soon panic if we could not find some food or water to consume. And yet, we can go for days without this nourishment, but we can only survive for a matter of minutes without air. Do we really take much notice of the air that we take into our lungs? As a society, we are always polluting what we take in. We inhale cigarettes either by choice or secondarily by the environment that we find ourselves in. We are forever breathing in pollution from cars and factories, and yet we often do not seem to think twice about the consequences. If, however, we eat one too many cream cakes, then it is as if the world has come to an end. The lung official is crucial to throwing away rubbish, as it expels the carbon dioxide that builds up in our bodies. This pollutant is harmful and deadly, and it is very important that it is removed from our systems. The other official associated with the metal element is the large intestine. The large intestine is the official of drainage and dregs. It is responsible for getting rid of unwanted material that can cause blockages and problems when things are not running smoothly. Of course, this also applies to the mind and spirit. If things are allowed to build up and are not cleared out on a regular basis, then they will rot and become stale. This can lead to the mind and spirit becoming clogged up and not able to move forward. We consider the metal element one of the easiest to recognize in a prospective ACULIFT patient. The skin is often referred to as the third lung, and most skin disorders are related to an imbalance in this element. The Neijing states that the lungs are connected with the skin. Also, as the official of drainage and dregs, if the large intestine is imbalanced, this could manifest as spots and acne or general poor skin quality. The skin is generally the first place to show any signs when there are toxins or impurities in the body. So this patient would benefit from treating the lung and large intestine points as well as the ACULIFT treatment. Dry skin can also point to an imbalance here. Dry evil is caused by insufficient moisture in the air and is particularly damaging to the lungs. It prevails in autumn and is associated with the elemental energy of metal. Although the symptoms may superficially indicate a primary imbalance, it is important to remember that not everyone who exhibits skin disorders of this kind will automatically be classed as a metal element CF. We are each made up of all of the 5 elements, and they have a complex effect upon one another. So these issues may be an indication of an imbalance of another point in the cycle. This nuanced approach will require a much more in-depth study than we are able to explore here, but If this has not formed part of your acupuncture background, it is enough for now to be aware of these elemental relationships. Perfection is attributed to this element, and a prospective facial patient with an imbalanced metal CF may well be on a quest to achieve this. It is all the more important to address this in the initial consultation and manage their expectations carefully. The water is linked to winter, the time of maximum yin, but its power cannot be underestimated. The type of character that first springs to mind when thinking about a water element is one of the guys in the classic movie Easy Rider. A rebel image conjures up the type of person that does not want to stay in one place for too long and is always looking to move on, someone who does not conform and stands out from the crowd. If you can call it a gift, then it would be that a water element is a free spirit. Any obstacle that confronts them is easily worked around, like a river finding its way around obstructions or boulders in its way. When balanced, they adapt to the shape that contains them, which on the flip side can indicate a need for boundaries, lest the water overflows and loses control, using up their reserves. In fact, the persona of a water element sounds like a very cool and attractive one to have, a bit of a James Dean figure, a person that is hard to pin down, who is perhaps on a different wavelength to the majority of people, but who risks depleting their essence. The emotion associated with the water element is that of fear or lack of fear. This feeling can be traced back many years to when farmers would have built up their stores of grain and crops to last over the barren winter months. There was the fear that if this was not done, then there would be no food left come the spring. This fear is still evident today in water elements who during the winter are very conscious to conserve things and are frightened of the consequences if they do not. A farmer would be very careful to make sure that they conserve as much water as possible so that there would be enough supply for the dry season to follow. Take time to observe the relentless persistence of water to get to where it wants. This is a feature that you can see if someone's water element is balanced. They will be persistent in what they do and not give up. Over time, it can wear away the hardest rock and make it smooth. Notice the smell. Each element has an odor, and water's is putrid. The sound that is linked to the water element is that of groaning. This is very evident when you are taking a walk along the beach. The sea has that relentless groaning sound. 1 minute quiet and then a groan as the wave reaches a peak and breaks. A similar sound to a train. Finally, the taste associated with water is salty, and of course you can taste this on your tongue very easily when you are near to the sea. These two officials really do exactly what it says on the tin. They deal directly with the water element. Between them, they govern the major aspects of our vital fluids. They are of the greatest importance to the whole of the body and other officials, as none of them can function without water. The kidney official is known as the official who controls the waterways. This, however, may be a little misleading as the kidney does far more. Ancient Chinese philosophy believed that the kidney official was a storehouse for ancestral energy that was passed on to each generation. It was the seed of life that was handed down. The official takes some of the chi energy from our consumption of food and air and compiles it as a reserve. This supply can be called upon when we have heavy physical or mental tasks to cope with. A part of the kidney official is the Ming Men. This is responsible for warming the essence of the kidney, and it is also a very important part of the official as it is a warmer for all of the body's organs. The essence that we have mentioned is called the kidney gene. This is derived from both pre- and post-heaven essence. The pre-heaven essence is inherited from our parents at conception. It can be gradually depleted throughout our lifetimes unless it is conserved well. The post-heaven essence is taken from food and nourishment and can be replenished. The function of kidney gene in our bodies is to do with the basis of growth and development. Deficiency can result in stunted growth or retardation and bone and teeth problems. Kidney gene is also the basis of our constitutional strength and the production of bone marrow, which fills the brain and the spinal cord. The pathology of someone with deficient kidney gene will be that of someone who is always weak and prone to constant infections. The bladder is the official who controls the storage of water, and it is the reservoir of the body, mind, and spirit. This is the reserve that we draw from in the winter when things are running low. If this is lacking, then things can start to go wrong in all three aspects. As well as being a reservoir, the bladder is also charged with disposing of the impurities found in our urine. If these are left to build up and not disposed of, these can eventually pollute our whole being. So, if the bladder is out of balance, it may not be able to keep its fluids within its boundaries. This may manifest as incontinence and cystitis-type infections. The bladder is one of the few officials that is similar in its description of use in both Chinese and Western medicine. It is also the longest meridian on the body with 67 points. The bladder and the kidney need to be looked at in the context of equal importance. The kidneys are rulers over the winter. Kidneys and bladder are related and have to be treated as one in acupuncture. These two officials of the water element need to be dealt with the greatest of respect, as they are responsible for a huge amount of water in the body. In fact, according to the Masaru Emoto in his book, The Hidden Messages in Water, the average human body is 70% water. That is a large volume of fluid that needs retaining and managing, so these organs need to be in the best of condition. From an emotional point of view, a water element patient looking at a ACULIFT treatment might express irrational fears, perhaps about growing old or the aging process in general. They may be frightened by the prospect of so many needles and potential risks, so they will need more reassurance than most. Alternatively, they will exhibit a complete lack of fear and will seem unfazed. They may even have chosen to have this type of treatment because it is unconventional and appears daring. Whether terrified or unperturbed, you can be sure that once they have begun, they will be determined to see the course of treatment through. As we have seen, the kidneys house our inherited energy or essence. When this is strong, we will grow old gracefully, and if it is weak, old age may arrive prematurely. It is clear to see that strengthening and maintaining the kidney gene can help retain vitality and youthfulness. The bladder is also an important meridian in ACULIFT, as the channel passes over both the head and face. This official helps to expel impurities from the body. So again, similar to the mental element, there may be skin conditions such as greasy skin or blackheads that become evident when this element is out of balance. Thank you very much for listening.